Storming.
Why?
And let's see, this is Thursday. Ooh, this is my last real teaching day in here. This is my advanced class going over our last thing with Princess Bride. This is May 16th. Tomorrow we have a test, and then next week learning will happen, and I will be recording it, but it's not like boring stuff. It's more of all other stuff. And so let's see, advanced kids. See, this is definitely a day that'll be memorable. Probably one of the more memorable teaching days we're going to have.
Today?
Yeah. Let's see, if you have any hall passes, you can still turn them in. Final princess test is tomorrow, although you can push it till later. You can also do the crossword if you're wanting to. And then the art show and the choir concert is tonight. And then I think I'll record fourth period also. We'll just see which class goes better. I don't want you guys to get too big of a head. Charger challenge coming up. I do have one spot left, but probably by the time you're watching this at home, you're going to be out of luck. This is coming up on Monday after school. And then tomorrow is the last day to buy things, unless you want to do it before or after class. Griff.
You should change your Simpson sheets to hello, my name is Inigo Montoya.
But that only makes sense at the very end of the year.
Yeah,
Two,
so you should just change
it's
them
also
at the end of the year.
a much shorter phrase, and I want a longer,
You killed my
more
father, prepare
difficult
to die.
phrase.
Exactly.
Or you could say hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die.
Well, that is a little bit longer. You definitely seem to be enjoying that. Marcus!
Have you seen my milk? I can't find it.
So with today, one of the things for you guys it'll be a little bit easier since fourth period is right after this. We're going to be doing an activity here coming up shortly that you cannot share with fourth period.
Okay.
And so much like we did before when I got to bring in things and share with you, and I said, it's basically just in this transition moment when you guys are leaving class and fourth period comes in, and you're going to have all this information inside of you. You can't spill it out until fourth period. But there's more. You also cannot talk to Globetrotters about it.
Dang.
Because their advanced classes are doing stuff with Princess Bride, and they're doing the same activity today. Because Sturgeon and I work together on this. So if you have Globetrottery people, I don't know exactly when his advanced classes are.
It's sixth period, I know.
I thought so too, which means that's the tough thing, is that you're going to be at lunch today, and you might be sitting with some advanced Globetrotters, and there are things that are going to happen today that you are going to want to speak about. Do not speak of the things that we speak about today, because if you do and you make me grumpy, then you're going to be watching next week's stories through the little glass window over there with little tears streaming down the front of it. Because if you ruin today and our activity for other kids, then I have to be mean to you. Just giving you a heads up. If you're at home, it doesn't matter because I'm not posting this until the end of the day, so we'll be good. Owen!
Advanced Globetrotters is an oxymoron.
Ouch and true. Uh-huh.
Does that make you a hypocrite since you were working with a Globetrotter and you told us not to?
No, that's just because I harass you guys all the time. I figure you guys are probably friends with Globetrotters. I even let Globetrotters sign my board over there sometimes.
That's dumb.
It's just the fact that you guys you're better than them. I just expect more of you, not to slum it down. But see, I work well with Mr. Sturgeon because we battle each other nonstop. Because Globetrotters are beautiful because they're under a delusion that they're better than us. That's just ridiculous. And so it sort of just helped fun to tease them and bring them along. And so, anyway, back to here. With Princess Bride, things that we're going to be covering here in a moment. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to get through, and we're going to do a whole bunch of talky stuff, things like that. Out of curiosity, how many of you guys have finished the end of actual Princess Bride, not Buttercup? If you haven't, not the end of the world. We'll be giving away some stuff as we go through here and talk. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the end of it for you. If you're not planning on reading the end of the book, then it probably doesn't affect you a whole lot, although it'll still have some impact on you. How many of you guys have read Buttercup's Baby, the sequel-y bit? If you have, go you again on that. Once again, that is optional.
It's so good.
We're going to talk about it, and if you enjoyed if you enjoyed Princess Bride, you'll enjoy Buttercup's Baby. I don't like it as much. I feel sort of the same way Goldman did.
It's true.
But I still like it. Plus, you have the guy without a face, and you get like the death of the main
he doesn't have
character.
skin.
Well, it's got all kinds of issues. And the death of the main character. But there's good stuff in there.
Come on, bro.
It is extra credit on the test tomorrow. So if you read it, you're welcome to answer the questions that go along with it. But realize, if you guess on the extra credit, I charge you a point for your random guess for being that kid. That kid?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you said about how, like, in the beginning, how you said the thing would connect about why Goldman was his son.
Yes.
I never got that.
It should have been either in the ending. No, it's in the beginning of Princess with the Buttercup. Did you get to Buttercup's Baby? That's why. Because it's in the beginning of Buttercup's Baby where he talks about it. That's one of the things we're going to touch on today.
Oh, his grandson's
Yeah,
so
and so
cute.
he talks about his grandson. We find out more about the connection. It's stuff that's...
Because like when I looked it up, I was actually looking him up to see if
We're going to talk about that in a moment. Hold on to that thought. By the way, this picture used to be in our old version of the book, and so it was a map they had in there that was like a little fold-out cool map thing. Is in the front part of... It's similar to that one, and so they have like a different map they did in that one.
It's a more animated.
Yeah, and so this was another version that they used to have, and so I took it out and scanned it and then put it in there. It used to be like in the middle of the book, and you could pull it out like a little bookmark, and then they changed things around. So you get the whole florid and Gilder with little bookmarks on it and stuff like that. All right. Now
It all makes sense now, Mr. Brovicast.
These are things we're going to come back to. I'm just sort of throwing them up there so you get a chance to see them. I want to come back and talk about the whole Buttercup's Baby. I want to talk about that final thing. There's a few things to get to. I don't know if you guys got on the very ending of the book with the whole...
That was me.
We get the whole
It all
full
came
circle.
full circle. Yeah.
It's almost like I know what I'm doing when I'm teaching and stuff like that. So you get that full circle at the ending. If you've not gotten to the ending, remember Lady and the Tiger? That short story we did? We had to make the two choices. It's like, it's up to the reader. How's it going to end? Same thing happens in this book. Until you get to Buttercup's Baby. And then you're like, now you get to find out what happened. And it gives you like the actual ending to it. So it gives you a motivation to read Buttercup's Baby.
It's
And then the first chapter. All right. So, now to the actual book. Information that I get to cover with you before we have our discussion. 1. With the original Morgenstern book, to help you out so you understand the book a little bit better. Information for you. 1. The whole book, from beginning to end, completely fictional. Every piece of it in there is completely made up. Yeah. And so the whole idea of, from there, there's no Florin or Gilder. Both of those are completely made-up countries.
Wait.
They do not exist at all. There has never been a Florin. There's never been a Gilder. Hold on. S. Morgenstern, not a real person.
What?
Completely made up. And so he is completely fictional, made up by Goldman as just an additional character
Wait,
in
so
this
he
book.
really just like wrote the book?
Correct.
So
So Goldman wrote the whole thing from the very beginning. So hang on, we're going to have questions, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg right now.
So
There's
the legal issues were fake.
so much more to come.
what?
So the entire
There's not a full version of Princess Bride
what?
anywhere.
It doesn't exist. There is no full version of the S. Morgenstern book anywhere. It does not exist on any level. This whole thing was an idea that Goldman came up with. The idea of having a make-believe book that he then cuts down
That's
and
so
then
cool.
does that. Where all those parts where he says, hey, I'm going to have to cut out these chunks because Morgenstern tended
Then
to
he just
ramble.
interrupted the reading.
He just
lied about his dead
he
dad
just
reading him a book
interrupted
as a
his
child.
own stuff. It was him making up his own
That's
things
so
that
cool.
sort of cut into it.
So
that's why I have one more thing. There you go. So he creates this whole thing as just a cool story idea.
It was cool.
Doyle.
Because he can, Caitlin.
Okay, so I'm guessing you asked the. So can you find the full version of the book by S. Morgenstern? Do you ask that every year?
Yeah, absolutely. And every year I'm like, hey, I'm too lazy to go find it myself. If you went back and watched last year's videos, I did the exact same thing for that. But most kids are too lazy to go back and watch last year's videos where I give away all this information. I rely on your laziness. It makes my job so much easier. So, yeah. Owen!
Goldman didn't even have a son.
Correct. We're not, trust me, tip of the iceberg. We're still getting there. Lucas!
So in the crossword, when it says what's S. Morgenstern's first name, what are you supposed to...
It's William.
Simon.
Yeah, Simon.
Yeah. His name's still a character in the book. His name's Simon. He says in the book, Simon Morgenstern.
somewhere and I
Like
forgot what it was.
anyone.
Yeah. And so it was an idea that he came up with, which is also, by the way, when we first started the book, and I told you, hey, we have to read the introduction for everything else to make sense. The reason we have to read the introduction is that's the beginning of the book. You have to read the introduction because that's where Princess Bride
That's why it
starts.
says the Princess Bride.
And so as you get into it, even though I tried to make it sound like it was just an introduction, and I've never taken a year where we've skipped the introduction because we can't skip the introduction. But I realize kids get all whiny and complainy, so I just throw that out there as the thing that we talk about, that you guys are like, oh, he's already done that. And so we just go ahead and push through it from there. But yeah, every year we've always read the introduction because that's the whole beginning of the book. For those of you who've seen the movie, it's why they work that into the movie. The little kid talking to the grandpa that happens throughout the movie, and they have those little interruptions, because it was all based on the same idea here. If it helps, when I read this book for the first time, I had no idea either. I thought it was all real stuff, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then there was this thing called the internet, and you can just look up stuff, and you're like, wait a minute, none of this makes any sense. But the joy is, this book came out in 1973, way before we had the internet. So back then, people couldn't look things up at all. But don't worry, there's more. We're not done.
So did he commit fraud or something?
What?
So that intro by him is completely made up. Every single bit of it, except for the parts where he mentions the fact that he's an author, and the fact that he's written movies, and the fact that he's married. Those are the only real parts throughout the entire thing. He's not married to a child psychiatrist, though. That's completely made up just for the book.
No.
He, of course, does not have a son named Jason. He actually has 2 daughters. And that's where he got the idea for this, as he was doing bedtime stories with his 2 daughters. And he goes, hey, what do you want me to tell a story about? And one daughter said, I want princesses. And one daughter said, I want brides. And so he found a way to work both of them together. And that's where it became The Princess Bride. And then from there started backing up and creating this whole idea for a fake book that his dad told him. Yes.
When we first started reading this book, I tried to find his son online, and I was like, I can't find him.
Which is a lot of trickery on my part when you guys start asking questions and try to bring stuff up, and I have to like move my hands quickly to distract you like you're little squirrels, because I have to rely on the fact that you have the attention spans of like gnats that are on caffeine, and the fact that I'm like, look, and you're like, what? I'm like, let's keep going. You're like, okay, and we just keep going. Like, whew, that was a close one. You guys almost asked a question. His wife, not the child, which is why he makes fun of Helen throughout the entire thing and keeps attacking her, because she's not a real person. That's why he keeps firing shots at her, because she's not going to get revenge, because...
I was looking her up, because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, he's got to have a divorce with her. There's
At
no
some
way
point,
it's
yeah.
Wait, this
No,
is
they were
Kermit?
together a long time. Yeah,
Who's Kermit?
we're going to talk about that too. That's coming up in a moment.
Wait, did we read
Yeah.
about Kermit?
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
coming up.
remember
Trust
that.
me.
Who's Kermit?
So he created all of that as part of the story. From beginning to end, one whole complete story, which just gives you a chance to just buy into the world. I figure it makes the whole thing more fun if you're believing it's real from the beginning. If I were to start off saying, hey, this is a book where he has a made-up thing and none of it's real, it takes away all of that joy, as opposed to thinking, hey, thank goodness he cut out 60 pages here and he cut out 100 pages here. When you get to chapter 4 and you're like, thank God he cut out all of chapter 4, that sounded awful, when you realize there was never a chapter 4. He just went ahead and did that one page because it makes things more fun. Emerton.
I already knew before, like I read it for the first time. So
Go you. LaRue?
What about that other book by Morgenstern?
Yeah. Good question.
Wait!
Wait a minute.
So this book,
It's fake.
Goldman, oh no, it's a real book. It's really well written and all of that. Goldman realized this took off and became huge, much more than he expected. He was still an early author when he put this book out, and because it was before the internet, people had no idea it was made up. So people completely bought into it. And this went on for years, of people thinking there was a Florin, there was a Gilder, and the fact that this was a history, and people got all into it. And so people kept trying to find out more about S. Morgenstern and trying to ask him about it. So he went out and wrote another book and published it completely under S. Morgenstern's name. And so he used S. Morgenstern, wrote it under a pseudonym, connected all this stuff to him, has a biography about S. Morgenstern in the back of it, and went all in because it creates this whole big world. Every once in a while when I get a kid that gets like real like, I don't think, I'll give them the book and like, you can read it, and they'll read it, and you can find the stuff on the back, and you can start Googling this book, and you're like, yep, all about S. Morgenstern. And so he fully committed to it because, I mean, why not? It makes it that much extra. So that's why I start busting this out. When I start suspecting that you guys are starting to think things, I bring this book out to show you guys, see, S. Morgenstern has it. I can loan it out to kids. Makes things that much better.
How do you spell Morgenstern?
Carefully. It's right there on the front of your novel, dear.
I hate
Carefully.
this.
So, which brought us back to the extra B-point opportunity thing. Now, on that one, I did have 3 kids who emailed me, but none of them responded to my email, which said, you have to give me proof before I can give you points. Because if not, it just becomes a random, I believe this is fake, and I'm like, yeah, that's fascinating. So, you got close, but you didn't respond to my email saying you have to prove it to me first. But, well tried. Don't worry, we're not done.
Oh my god.
There's more.
Can you explain Kermit?
And by the way, this is also next year when kids start reading this and you have like new incoming 7th graders. My request to you is don't ruin it for them. I
Do
apologize
that. That's so mean.
now if an 8th grader ruined it for you or you have an older sibling that ruined it for you. It's why I teach throat punching early in the year. So they're like, hey, did you know it's all and just like, ah, and they hit the ground like, you don't ruin things for me. Because don't let them ruin the fun for you. Now, let's keep pulling back more stuff.
I have a question for you.
So, the reunion scene. Why is there no reunion scene?
Because there is no S. Morgenstern.
He never created a reunion scene. It was all just a big fake thing he created because he was curious to see what people would do. It became a social experiment. So he was like, all right, if I put this fake thing in there, will people actually write in to try and find out about it? Turns out the answer was yes. A lot of people. And it got huge of people trying to find out about this reunion scene. So he just kept rolling with it, and there was never actually a reunion scene there, which of course entertained him tremendously.
That's so mean.
Remember his lawyer? What's the lawyer's name?
Kermit. He had a son named Mandrake.
Kermit Shog. Kermit the Shog. So when this came out, Sesame Street was really big and the Muppets were hitting. So he's like, all right, we'll start dropping hints to see if we can help the general public figure out that all of this is
I feel
fake.
really dumb.
So he starts putting little Easter eggs and clues out there.
I love Easter eggs.
So when people started writing in for it, he's like, all right, we'll put this out there. It'll give things away because Kermit Shog will be a dead giveaway.
Nope.
Nope. People just went, wow, people in Florin have names just like Muppet characters? Who would have thought? And he was like, yeah, that's totally it. And just rolled with it. And he was like, wow, that worked out much better than I thought. And the fact that we now have like a resurgence of Kermit-y things, and yet you guys still saw Kermit Shog, and you just nodded your head, went right along with it. You're like, that's a weird name. Who would have thought the frog got his name from like Florin? That's all right. And then he came out with like Mandrake Shog, and he was like, which didn't connect to anything. It's just a completely made up weird name. And he's like, yeah, people still just rolled with that one. Okay, we'll just keep going. And so that's where he keeps coming up with all these different ideas. The reason he keeps coming up with the whole lawsuits thing was the idea that there's the lawsuits between Florin and Gilder and us. Some years I have kids raise their hand and go, Mr. Brovia? I go, yes. They go, how can there be lawsuits with Florin or Gilder if they don't exist anymore?
Oh yeah.
Solid question. And you guys never asked that question, so I was free and clear. But that's one of the issues that pops up is because I have to tell you Florin and Gilder don't exist, because if not, then you'd be able to find them on maps. So like they used to be around, but then how would we have lawsuits with them? But usually a lot of fast talking and snapping off to the side to distract you works pretty well on that one. So the same thing happened here. We find out there is no Florin Gilder, there's no lawsuits. By the way, cadmium, if you decided to Google that, also just a made-up random chemical that he came up with. Sort of comes from the Cadbury eggs, which he thought were really delicious at the time. And so he just came up with cadmium. And once again, a simple Google of, is cadmium real? Would have been like, no. But no one goes that far either. So, the sequel that he came up with, Buttercup's Baby. There is no sequel. What there is the first chapter of a make-believe sequel. Because people kept liking the book so much, he decided, hey, let's have fun and create the first chapter of a book. And then if you read Buttercup's Baby, he says at the end of it, I could not do more than the first chapter because another author wants to take over and steal it from him. So there is no more Buttercup's Baby. He just wrote that first really exciting chapter and then just stops on the cliffhanger. So it's more like a Princess Bride short story.
As in might not.
It's sort of like that open-ended thing.
The Lady and the Tiger.
There you go. And so he does the exact same thing on that one.
Doesn't he reference that?
He does in
we
there.
just talked about that.
But he actually full out references it. We talk about the other book by Morgenstern. Questions before I blow your mind again with the next thing.
There's more?
Oh yeah, there's more. Yes.
Are you trying to poison our brain?
Yeah, we're going to talk about lying in a moment.
I came for the brain.
All right.
You right now.
Just wait.
Wait, why should be like that?
Yeah.
Everything I just said was fake.
No, Ioki is completely made up.
Are you kidding?
I know. Which is why I can't bring in iocane because it doesn't exist whatsoever. What would I do? Bring around a powder that has no taste and no smell? And you'd be like,
Actually,
smell
there
it.
is
It smells like nothing. It's iocane!
Baby powder.
And so, yeah, there's no iocane.
Baby powder smells. Never mind.
Which is fun because that's what he's like making fun of Australia. And he's like, Australia is where people like criminals and fun stuff like that.
You know, I can't like this book anymore, Mr. Brovicast.
Going along those same lines. So up here on my wall above where Nate is, seniors, if you're like in the top 25, you get to nominate a teacher as like your most influential one. And I've been picked 5 times. My 6th one's coming up this weekend. I get to go for it again. But my girl who is right here, Jillian Hayes, who is the second one who chose me, her letter, the thing that she wrote, because you get to write a little blurb for your teacher, hers says, Mr. B, I've never hated an educator more than I hated you. And for that, I am forever grateful. Keep pushing kids and pathologically lying. Where do you think that came from?
Princess Bride.
Yeah. This was the day when all of a sudden her eyes, when she was like, you just lied to me. I'm like, it makes you a better person because you get to figure out the fact that there's
Do we have to?
And so that was one of those days where it sort of broke her but made her better at the same time. Alright. So speaking of which, this is not the only book where this has happened.
No.
Oh, hang on. I forgot this part. The map I showed you, by the way.
That's why I was so
I was kind of confused.
I randomly just circled a spot on a map and then just put arrows to it.
Do you do a different spot every year?
Sometimes, randomly just move it around.
I want to go there.
And that was where
Oh yeah, and then you have to think about it.
You use the key word if you think about it. No one ever does. Which, by the way, well, people travel, but yeah, because he never really comes out and says exactly where it is. It's like on a coast, and so his multiple different explaining of things. So I just randomly picked a spot and put a circle, and I figured you guys would just accept things.
I mean, I fell for like all of it, to be honest.
John?
Can rats actually get that freakishly big?
No, that's completely make me.
Did you just
But
ask that?
hang on, since you opened the book real quick, to continue it,
No.
if you open your book
No!
and turn to those first pages where he has those blurbs, they're all made up. If you flip through there, where it talks about the things where it says, like Henry Pavlov, author of Middle Morgenstern, Shog Bongiorno, Professor Emeritus, so he mixes in fake ones with the real ones throughout, and so there you go. And so you get the idea of all of those. He started putting in, yeah, all those fun little things that he throws into the beginning of it with those intro blurbs to see who's paying attention.
I don't know how I feel about it. I hate this.
Griffin?
Okay, so at the very beginning,
Yes.
you said that Gilder and Florin are in Turkey, and when I saw this map, I'm like, that's nowhere near.
Well, that's why I oftentimes use the excuse, I don't teach geography, I'm not good at... I've got a lot of go-to excuses I throw out there. Like when I'm like, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at maps. You're like, yeah, he's not good at maps. Yeah. When you're randomly making stuff up, a lot of things just go over.
Bro.
Yes.
You ever been hit with a book? I'm just wondering if anyone went.
I told you today was
Ever
memorable.
been hit with a binder?
Sharp?
Is there a reason that we skipped like the first couple introductions?
Only because of the time.
Oh.
If you've read the book and enjoyed it, those introductions are really cool. Because he goes back and tells you about the creating of it, and it gives some stuff away. And so it talks about the creating and the writing, especially if you've seen the movie, which is awesome. And so it connects to that, and it tells you about how the casting of it happened. So there's really cool stuff in there. It's just, if you've not read the book and have had your eyes open to it, it feels just long and boring. But now that you understand things, it takes a whole new meaning.
Where are we at?
Speaking of a whole new meaning,
No. Can you?
we'll come back to that one.
To not trust people because the world is
Partly.
cruel.
But I don't want to lose time for this one.
Is that all fake? That's all fake. That's not.
My friend just told me that. He's like, no, Mr. Brovicast, this is very important. No.
My dad was right the entire time.
No, just listen to me. This is important. My friend went, she's a Globy, and she was the gospel reporting Larry is not real. And she's like, searched and told me, I said, Brovicast told me, and he wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah, so that book also is completely made up.
Wait.
Yes, dear?
I looked at the website. I said that it was a real website, but that it wasn't operating anymore.
Yeah,
Doesn't make sense.
I
So
know.
I was trying to find it.
That's,
It's not fair.
which, once again, it's fun with Gospel According to Larry, because that's our sort of our gateway entryway on that one. With the
What about the
fact,
outsiders? Is that real?
We knew that was.
but you knew that wasn't real.
I know, but is it gonna flip flop and it's gonna be real?
No, that's just the ending last two books. I used Gospel to sort of transition into
I
this
don't
one,
like this.
and the two of them.
I have
It's like lied to us for 3 months.
no. It's
One,
been like 6 months.
it makes the stories better. And
Doesn't
think about it for a moment before. Set aside your anger and rage. And with Gospel, it's a more fun read if you think it was a real kid dealing with real issues. It gives it more weight to it. So I started doing it for that reason, because it just sort of makes it a bit more of a fun thing to get through. And then at the end, I used to reveal, hey, no, it's not real. And then we started reading Princess Bride, and I was like, wait, I'll just postpone that reveal until the end of Princess Bride, and we'll wrap all of it together. And yeah, with Gospel According to Larry, there's issues when you go and talk to your parents, because your parents are like, what are you talking about?
That's exactly
These things
what
never
happened.
happen. You're like, whatever, old person. You just don't remember things. And you throw your hand in their face like you're just an angry teenager. And you're like, you're just an old person. But really, turns out
Sorry,
they
I
weren't
called you a
lying to
liar,
you.
Mom.
I'm just...
Lying to us.
I was going to say educationally manipulating you. But sure, you
Like a
can
psychopath.
use
Like a psychopath.
phrasing stuff like that. Now, to go back to what is it I want you to learn from all of this? Well, one,
Don't trust you.
Never trust.
partly, actually, yes, but we're going to talk about that. Two, hopefully now you understand at the beginning of class when I said you have a tough time not revealing this information to other people. So when you're leaving my class, you're going to have to hold your rage in
Wait,
as the
is
fourth
this
period
class
kids
over
come in.
already?
It will be soon, but not quite yet. And then also not revealing stuff to the Globetrotter kids. There's a reason why I do this. Actually, a couple reasons for it. One, I do believe it makes the book more fun to read. And just on the basic level, as opposed to just being, hey, like with Outsiders, knowing if you had thought Outsiders was a real person's life story, it adds an extra level to it. So the same thing with Gospel, it adds an extra level to it. It allows us to have conversations and enjoy ourselves. So you guys got angry at Beth, and we talk about what happens with Josh, and that's the thing that happens more with real people than characters, which is partly why I do that. And then here with Princess Bride, it's partly because everyone thought it, not just you. America thought it when it came out, because there was no internet to disprove things. So back in the 70s, when this book hit big, it was what everyone thought. So you got to sort of experience that same joy. On another level, though, and the more important one, why I choose to do these, People are going to lie to you. I lie to you out of honesty with trust. The fact that I'm going to give you this information at the end, and in all honesty, I have your best interests in mind. I want to make you better people. There are others out there who do not feel that way, and they are going to lie to you, and they are going to manipulate you. Not just me, but adults, politicians, other teachers. You need to verify what people tell you. From me, moving forward, never just blindly accept what someone tells you. Do not blindly accept what any teacher tells you or what any adult tells you. People will lie to you. Especially nowadays, when you can verify things at the touch of your fingers, we will rely on you being lazy to get away with things. There's a reason why adults have issues nowadays, because they don't verify things. They get lied to and just accept it. So, for me, I want to make you guys better than that. And me telling you that is one way of doing it. But me showing you this and having you feel anger and rage and making it have an impression on you is the thing that has a much better chance of later on when you have a tickling in the back of your mind that maybe this adult is full of crap and I should do something about it. You're not going to go, nah, it's an adult, and push it to the side. You're going to go, wait a minute, Brovicast, twitchy, 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 twitchy. No! And you're going to start Googling things like, they are full of crap! And you're going to find out it's all there. That's what I want from you. Yes, you got ragey today, but long term, I want you to benefit from this. Because I told you the truth. Now, from here, from the rest of the time you know me, now I get to be truthful to you.
No.
Going into next week, the stories I tell you, I no longer have to lie. That's why I end with this.
No.
Because this is the part where I get to pull back the veil.
I don't want to cry.
Going into next week, there are other things I'm going to be telling you about my class as we move forward. And revealing stuff about things I've done this year. We have a lot coming this next week. Which is why I told you at the beginning of this, most of what I do builds up to this last week of information.
I absolutely hate your guts.
I'll be suing you in court.
You will get all of my pennies.
13 lawsuits.
Nate.
2 things. First of all, I absolutely hate your guts. And second of all, so what you're telling us is to never trust anybody and be super paranoid.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Now you see why she... Now, by the way, when Jillian wrote that, they tried to not let her do it because they thought that she was trolling a teacher. And they're like, you can't give that to a teacher. That's going to hurt his feelings. She's like, it's not going to hurt that man's feelings. And she actually had to go to the principal and fight to be able to give me a plaque that says, I hate you. And when she gave it to me, it made me cry a little bit because I was like, oh, that means so much. The fact that this day had enough of an impact on her that even though you guys get ragey now, my honest fear is that next week you're like, whatever, and you completely forget about it and move on. If 5 years from now you're a senior in high school and you're still challenging teachers and going, you're not going to Brovicast me, and you're yelling at them, that makes me proud. I've made an impression. Schmuck.
Why should I believe anything you say anymore now?
Good question.
Is this real?
Because that's what I'm asking you to do now.
The Matrix.
Solid question.
Oh my goodness.
Verify things. As I tell you things now, moving on.
I mean your stories next.
I know.
What if you're going to
Moving
lie
forward,
about those?
you can start
If you're gonna
verifying
lie
things
about
and
those,
double
you might
checking
as
them.
well lie about telling the truth.
Are those
So,
real? Or like,
Doyle.
I have 2 things.
Uh-huh.
Are you lying about
So,
mine?
next week when you're telling stories, can you throw in one fake one? We have to try and figure out which fake
no,
one.
that's too.
No.
That's
So
I
so.
ate my cat this
Right.
morning.
Then we have our phones or iPads out so we can research if we feel this one.
Now I have 6 stories.
I'm trying not to break you that much. Next week, I focus more on bearing my soul and connecting with it.
I'm over it.
Duke? I'm real. Human's more of an opinion. Going off of what many kids think about me, human might not. By the way, now you understand why my advanced classes come back and that connection that we have, and the fact that I've told you, if you survive my class and still want to come back and write on the board, this is the process we get to go through. My regular kids don't get this joy. You guys had to read a book that was 8 times their length, but they also don't get the experience that you did. Those of you who did not read the book, that's fine. You still got to get the beginning part of it. You still get to have some of this reveal and the understanding. Those of you who did read it and committed to it, for you it's slightly more painful, but that's good for you.
Like, I actually looked it up and was like looking for. I was like,
I know. You fought me so many times on that, LaRue. I had to keep snapping to the side and getting you to turn and look different directions, but you were really dogging. I started to get scared. Yes. You're having trouble putting into words the amount of hatred you have for me. Once again, do not, as you are leaving my room today, ruin this for other people. Push your rage down deep.